Welcome back YouTubers to my channel of an everyday life of an Aspie. If you're new, I'm Aspie Answers. I'm all about creating mental health and advocating you all based on mental health and autism, taking you on a journey when I'm able, based on my everyday life as an autistic adult, and also some fun and games with other hosts of various topic and video elements. So if you're into any of these, feel free to smash the subscribe button on the bottom right hand corner and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. So as you're aware, as I said before, I'm talking about all about the ableism series at the moment because I feel this needs to be addressed, because obviously this is a long way to go, I believe, based on ableism, people's attitude towards people with different, mental disabilities versus their physical disabilities, and I feel it needs to be addressed and stopped one way or another, which that's my only hope for the future, even though I believe this is a long way to go. So I'm one of the many that's standing up against ableism and some other terms of words that I use based on stigma and stereotyping, as well as exclusion, because obviously we need to accept one another's differences regardless of who and what we are, despite the labels we may be given and whatnot. So therefore hopefully we can do this. So if you haven't been following me right now, this is hopefully a little bit of a continuation based on my stigma of the history of ableism and the negative or the attitudes towards people that are disabled. This one's obviously ableism, negative attitudes, stereotypes and stigma, which is a part 2 of this series of it. If you haven't seen that very first one of what stigma is, and that I'll link it in the icon above me, as well as in the description, as well as also the other video. This is as a form of a continuation from this. But before I begin any of these videos, as I keep forgetting, as a disclaimer, I'm no medical doctor, I'm just your normal Joe vlog. So if you see anything out of the ordinary based on the past or present symptoms or what have you, seek professional advice or opinion or help for yourself or your loved ones, because I don't forever condone self-harm. Anyways, back to this. As we know, basically there has been an ableist belief system that has often underlied certain negative attitudes and beliefs based on the stereotypes and stigmatizing people towards psychosocial disabilities or just disabilities in general, be it whatever it may be. Ableism refers to attitudes in society that devalues and limit the potential of persons with disability. Ableism also is defined as disablism in the British dictionary, English dictionary, or shall we say anaphobia, anapirism and disability discrimination. Is discrimination and social prejudice against people with disabilities or who are perceived to have disabilities. Ableism characterizes persons as defined by their disabilities and as are inferior to the non-disabled people. On this basis, however, people are assigned or denied certain perceived ability, skills or character orientation. There are stereotypes generally inaccurate associated with either their disability in general or with specific disabilities that may be physical. For instance, a presumption that all disabled want to be cured, which wrong. I have shared this about do I want my autism to be cured and whatnot, which I'll link in the icon above me and in the description box below me to share my life story with it. Or another one is for another presumption is that wheelchair users initially have an intellectual disability just because of their physical appearance, or a blind person have some form of insight. These type stereotypes and more in turn will serve as a justification for ableist practices and reinforce discriminatory attitudes and behaviours toward people who are disabled. Labeling affects people when it limits their options for action or changes their identity, as well as maybe changing in the form of self-worth, which I clearly shared about labels based on my poem and also based on just my afterthoughts about labels, which again in the icon will be above me and in the description box below me to explain more about labels. Belongs to racism, sexism or ageism, and sees persons with disabilities as being less worthy or respect, I should say, and consideration. This is also known as less able to contribute and participate or of less inherent value than others. Ableism may be conscious or unconscious, however, and may be embedded in institutions, systems, or even the broader culture of society today. It can limit the opportunities of persons with disability and reduce their inclusion of life in the local communities when they want to be accepted. Discrimination against people with mental health or addiction issues, however, is often linked to prejudicial attitudes as well as the negative stereotyping and the overall stigma surrounding mental health and addictions, which again, as I said before, there's been a lot of stigma and stereotyping based on different disabilities as well as autism included. It's starting to come out more in the framework as well as mental health. That's why I'm here today, to hopefully address these to you. All of these concepts are interrelated. For example, stereotyping, prejudice and stigma can lead to discrimination. The stigma surrounding mental health and addictions can also be an effect of discrimination, ignorance, stereotyping and prejudice and so much more. Where stigma, negative attitudes and stereotyping result in discrimination, they will contravene the code. Organisations and individuals have a legal obligation under the code of conduct to not discriminate against people with mental health or addiction issues and to eliminate discrimination when it does happen. These obligations apply in situations where discrimination is direct and the results of a person's internal stereotypes, prejudices. They also apply when discrimination is indirect and may exist within and across institutions because of law, policies and unconscious practices. Stigma, negative attitudes and stereotypes can lead to inaccurate assessments of people's personal characteristics or just people's personal abilities, traits and what have you. They may also lead institutions to develop policy, procedures and decision-making practices that exclude or marginalise people with mental health disabilities and addictions. And a classic example here, in one case a human rights tribunal recognised that a decision not to investigate an alleged crime could be discriminatory if based on a belief that the allegation was unfounded because it resulted from an assessment of the person's psychiatric condition rather than a genuine incident. Another example you can hear for, in one case, a female bartender developed an anxiety disorder and began to experience panic attacks after she was seriously assaulted by customers. Her employer accommodated her by allowing her to be absent when she was too ill to work. Then the complainant got a new manager who became impatient with her absences. However, a tribunal found that the manager discriminating against her when he reduced her shifts and made comments about her medical condition in front of others, including saying that she messed up in her head, needed drugs and looked pretty unstable. Another example you can hear about is a man with a mental disability lived in a trailer park with his mother. This disability resulted in some peculiar but harmless behaviours. The owner began to be frightened of the man because of his perceived mental disability and eventually warned other tenants to protect themselves and not to provoke him. And instead of investigating, she viewed him as crazy and dangerous, believing he might blow up in his trailer. Eventually, he and his mother was evicted. A human rights tribunal concluded that there was no reliable evidence that the claimant posed a threat. The respondent sought the tenant's eviction because of her perceptions and misconceptions about his mental disability at hand. And based on unfounded and stereotypical views, she concluded the tenant was a threat to the safety of herself and other residents. This was found to be discriminatory. Stereotypes related to violence persist even through studies that most people with mental health disabilities are no more likely to engage in violent behaviours than the general population. In fact, research has shown that people with serious mental illnesses are more likely to be victims of violence themselves than other members of the general population in general. People with mental health issues may also perceive to be having the lack of capacity to make decisions in their own best interest, even when this may not be the case. They often see like childlike behaviour or just childlike in general and in need of help. These perceptions may result in paternalistic attitudes and practices that can create barriers and limitations for people with special needs or what have you. Certain types of disabilities are more stigmatised than others due to the stereotypes associated with them, as I clearly addressed earlier. People with schizophrenia, however, as an example, or drug addictions may experience particularly negative attitudes from others based on their beliefs about dangerousness, antisocial behaviour or risk. People with addictions may also experience particularly negative behaviour because of assumptions about how much they are personally responsible for their disability and assumptions about their involvement with crime because of the extreme stigma around certain types of mental health disabilities and addictions. Many people may also be afraid to disclose their disability to others for fear of judgment, fear of maybe just exclusion, fear of everything else. Hearsay. They may worry about being labelled as another one of a reason, experiencing maybe certain negative attitudes from others, losing their jobs or housing, or experiencing unequal treatment and services after disclosing a mental health issue or addiction. Fears of discrimination can also result in people not seeking support for mental health issue or addiction. Negative attitudes, stereotyping and stigma can also lead to harassment towards people with disabilities or psychosocial, physical and the like, in the form of negative comments, social isolation, unwanted conduct, including mental health profiling, from employers, landlords, co-workers, service providers, and more in the community that's supposed to help us. The Law Commission of Ontario that I was reading out about consultation on disability showed how negative attitudes and stereotypes can lead to actions that further marginalize people with mental health disabilities, and which also is a worldwide problem, however, based on what I've researched on this report. Many persons with mental health disabilities, particularly those who have been homeless, shared experiences which demonstrated that they had been subject to heavy judgment and negative assumptions when dealing with the legal systems. Lack of supportive services, however, for persons with mental health disabilities, together with stigma and fear about these disabilities, may lead to increased contact with police and may contribute to the criminalisation of persons with mental health disabilities, an issue of great concern to many participants. My end note here to end is organisations must take steps to address negative attitudes, stereotypes, and stigma to make sure they do not lead to discriminatory behaviours toward or treatment of people with psychosocial disabilities and much more. So this quickly ends my video of a real short one, hopefully based on ableism and negative attitude and belief. I want to ask you a question for any one of you who may have a hidden disability or just a disability in general, be it autism or whatnot, they are maybe watching today. I want to challenge you of a few questions based on this. What is your understanding based on what the world is like at the moment for us, based on does it need to be changed based on what I shared earlier about the certain models that needs to be changed, versus also if you were treated differently with a disability, you know, how did you feel about it? What do you want to say about it, you know, or just what you want to say in general to change the people's belief patterns and attitudes towards you as a person with a disability. And also basically if there was to be any changes made based on these negative attitudes and beliefs from people, how would you want to address it yourself? So don't forget to guys, smash the like, comment below as I said, share these videos around to family and friends, follow me on my social medias. No further ado guys, thanks for your support, thanks for watching, do what you love what you do. Until next time, Aspie signing out, and I'll see you again soon. For now.